Hello, it's Lavistro, the Dragon of Cyberspace, coming to you with all news, tips, and tricks in the gaming spectrum. And it seems like Japan has a spending problem when it comes to gacha games. Noting in the comics reports that waifu gacha wallet nearly 20% of Japanese 20-somethings admit suffering financial difficulties due to excessive in-game spending. I think we've had this conversation, not at DragonCast, but as a gaming community for almost a decade now, about microtransactions and excessive spending. We've actually mentioned that with corporations, it's like a golden goose story. If anyone knows the golden goose story, you know that there's a goose that lays a golden egg for a farmer, and the farmer will get a golden egg. And one night, the farmer got greedy and said if he had opened the goose, he'd get all the golden eggs at once. And turns out that when he did so, the goose had regular eggs inside. This seems to be a problem with microtransactions in games now, as people who are trying to build their lives in their early years to raise a family and be successful are having an addictive problem. One could call it similar to a gambling addiction. Let's continue. From Genshin Impact to Fortnite's Pokemon Go, a new report has revealed that a not insignificant portion of Japanese adults in their 20s admit to having let their general in-game spending habits at one time or another spiral to the point of causing them genuine financial hardships. I would say this is worldwide, but let's continue. This insight into the current state of Japanese player habits has provided to the public courtesy of a recent financial temperature survey conducted by the country's local-based Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, conducted online over a 3-day period from February 19 to 21, 2025, among an open participation pool of 1,000 total men and women aged 20 to 29, said the survey asked respondents a number of money-related questions, including their thoughts on the value provided by physical media versus streaming services, average salaries, and what they value most in life. Surprisingly, those in their early 20s across both genders said hobbies, while late 20s women shifted family, and similar age men stood by their previous answer but also added partner. As part of this line of inquiry, respondents were at one point pressed as to their relationship, if any, existed with in-game spending. While SMBC did not specify exactly what qualifies as in-game spending, it is presumed that respondents took it to mean any exchange of money for a digital item or service, such as gacha pulls, different character skins, MMO subscription fees. Per a translation of results provided by ChatGPT, roughly 216 of the surveyed individuals, 141 men and 75 women, said that last year they had actively chosen to spend money on in-game purchases, with monthly totals averaging about roughly 4,247 yen. That's about $30 per player. And while this amount seems more recently in terms of live service spending, this base statistic fails to truly detail the dark side of in-game spending, and particularly as it relates to gacha games such as Blue Archive, Hanakai, Impact Third, or Goddess Victory, Nikki, genre which itself derives the same from the Gachapon style of random chance capsule toys to their similar mechanics. For the same poll response, 188 total individuals, 114 men and 74 women, admitted to having experienced financial difficulties due to spending too much time on games. With further 136 men and 103 women saying that they regretted spending money on games. Interesting, while the survey found that the amount of players willing to spend money on in-game purchases increased by the average of 58 to 1,000 per individuals, the profit potential of this willingness boom is being offset by stimulatively decrease in actual amount of money being spent, with the money median dropping approximately 891 Japanese or $6. Breaking this decrease further, been pulled back to spending amount by monthly average of we'll just say $8.70, while women cut significantly smaller, equivalent to $1.50 USD for their respective in-game budgets. And noticing they did not break down the following data by gender, they also found that 179 responses agreed to the statement, "I want to spend money to progress more easily in the game." 200 admit, "I can't enjoy the game without spending money." "I'm willing to spend money to obtain items or characters," and "I feel proud when I obtain rare items or characters in the game." So after all these numbers explanation, what does the data actually mean? In terms of real, true, solid economic data, the answer is not a lot. As home participant once told Kent Brockman, "People can come up with statistics to prove anything. In this sentiment, overly applies the idea of trying to blanket determine the true spending habits of an entire national demographic of the answers of just 1,000 users online." However, if we look to a sample size itself, the fact that while average players spend $30 a month on a given game or games, at least 188 people have spent so much that they found themselves actually struggling to survive. It's embarrassing admission, so it's possible some players may be less forward than the truth. Ultimately, the SMBC survey shows not only how gacha games are truly carried on the backs of so-called whales, those few players who, whether through careless or addiction, make up a given game's top financial sources, but how sadly the gacha bouquet can be to some individuals. And that's the thing. I mean, let's be honest here, okay? Games are meant to be fun. I also play certain games that has additional skin features, for example, the First Ascendant. But I also have responsibilities as a parent to a Dragonling. And Dragonlings are expensive. If you're a parent, you know this. Children are expensive. If you have a relationship, if you're in a relationship with someone, relationships are expensive. And nothing is certain in life except for death and taxes. Personally, I think when it comes to these things is that a lot of people across the world do not have a budgeting skill. Let's just call it that. I budget my money. I pay my bills first. I get my groceries, and what's left I divide up to savings, games, and my business. A majority of my budget on those last three go to savings. I never know if, for example, being a disabled veteran, is to be able to run out of money. I do not like being physically disabled to where I can't work. That I'm dependent on the U.S. government for my money, even though it's the U.S. government that told me to go to war and get injured. And to compensate for my injuries, they pay me for my services permanently till death. But I still don't like that fact. So I put money in the savings. Any money I get on Dragon Cast does not go to games either. Any money I get on Dragon Cast goes directly into Dragon Cast and Lavistro plays. Any money I get elsewhere, I divide it up for my family. I'm the last person that gets to see any of my money. This is why people seem to think that I'm made up of lots of money. No. I budget my money out. This includes with super chats to help support other content creators I enjoy, games as well. I'm not kidding when I say I'm a poor dragon. But when you handle your money correctly, your money can grow. But I am no financial advisor. I'm just telling you from my personal experience. But gacha games are a serious problem, as well as microtransactions. As we can see, people are spending money. And while it may be 1,000 people per se, those thousands of people need help. I'm not saying ban gacha games. I'm saying we're all adults here. If you are an adult and you're playing a gacha game and you're finding it financially hard to support yourself, but you can't enjoy a game unless you spend money on it, then maybe the problem is you shouldn't be playing that game. There are people with gambling problems. There are people that go to a casino and they just spend $20 or $100. They put money aside for this. And they go on a casino trip, right? I don't condemn or condone gambling at all. That's your personal choice. But there are people who do. Who go out there and gamble. and they do it just for the fun of it. Then you got people who get so engrossed in the thrill, they'll spend all their life savings trying to make it rich quick in a gambling casino. And they become addicted. Of course, this is basically a generalized statement, but you get the idea. It is a problem. It has always been a problem since time immemorial. But the question remains, how do we solve this problem? It is a you problem, per se. This is what I'm going to say. It's a you problem. If you're playing a game and you're spending 80% exaggerated on games, you can't put money aside. You can't go have a life. You can't do anything you would like to do or want to do or succeed in life. Then you need to be an adult and tell yourself, I had enough of this game. You need to get off that lever. You need to get off that button, uninstall that game. You may have made friends on that game. Sure, I understand. But are they taking care of your bills for you? That's all I had to say on this subject. I'm going to let it open for you, viewer. What do you think? How could we solve this problem? Do you play gacha games? Are you able to sustain yourself? Do you have any advice for people who play gacha games? Put your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, happy gaming.
Worlds clash in endless collision. Gaming news with a fierce precision. With a spark so wild it breaks the norm. In the tempest eye of cyberspace, reclaim gaming in Dragon Cast. Fire breathing wine, screaming loud. Lavistro's here to shake the crowd. Psychotic dragon.